Hi. Okay, I'm not even gonna think about how long it's been since I made a video. It's been a very long time. And this video I'm going to make right now has nothing to do with what this channel is originally for, which is gluten-free food, gluten-free living, whatever. Like I've said so many times, I'm still working out what aspects of gluten-free life, living, food I want to make a part of this channel. But this video I've been wanting to make for the past 6 months, and I know that most people who are subscribed to me are not interested in this, but these type of videos, I'm going to tell my birth story video, these type of videos before I had my baby, I watched like almost all of them on YouTube. I just loved watching them and they were so helpful to me, especially positive stories. They were so helpful to me before I had my baby, so I'm sorry this has absolutely nothing to do with gluten-free or having celiac, whatever, but I really wanted to make this video. So my baby is sleeping right now with my husband. Literally, this is the first time in 6 months I've been able to sit down and do this. It almost feels silly to do because it's been so long. It hasn't been too long that I've forgotten all the details. Hopefully, as I tell this, I want to make it not super long because I know there's some of these birth story videos that are really long. I want to make it kind of short, just kind of share my experience, because as I have YouTube as my platform and I just love these videos, I really wanted to sit down and make one. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm sorry if you have absolutely no interest in this, feel free to not watch it, but for all the moms out there who want to hear a positive birth story experience, I just really wanted to share. So hopefully I remember all the details since it was 6 months ago now. I was actually induced and I was only 2 days over my due date. So my due date was March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, and I had my baby girl March 19th. So it was technically an elective induction, meaning I chose to be induced because I was only 2 days over. So my doctor, I had my baby at a university hospital, so it's a research hospital and they're doing tons of research, and they're researching right now inducing people at 39 weeks. So that was an option for me. My doctor kept asking me if I wanted to. I could be induced at 39 weeks, but that just wasn't something I wanted. I didn't want to choose to be induced before I gave my baby the chance to come by her due date, and I didn't want that. So I didn't choose to be induced early like I was being offered. I definitely wanted to wait for my due date. But a lot of people say you take after your mother the way your labor goes, and my mom's first baby, she was like 2.5 weeks late. She was very late, and it was coming up for me. I was like 38, 39 weeks, and I could just feel that I was not going to be early. I was definitely going to be late. Most people with their first babies go over, most people, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of people do. So I just knew I was going to go over my due date. I just had the feeling. And my doctor is one of 7 doctors, so I essentially had a 1 in 7 chance that my OB, who I really love, was actually going to be the one to deliver my baby. This is all to explain, long story short, that my doctor offered me, 2 days after your due is when I'm going to be working and I could deliver your baby. Do you want to be induced? And it was a really hard decision because, again, I didn't really want to be induced, but my husband and I talked about it and I was just like, yeah, let's go for it, because I just had a feeling I was going to be induced anyways, even if it was a week, 2 weeks late, whatever. And so I was like, let's just do it. 2 days after, she's been in there long enough. Let's do it. And I was very nervous about that decision. Even after making it, I wasn't sure if it was the right decision, but as it got closer and closer, like I said, it didn't really feel like my body was about to go into labor, but I could tell things were changing very much. I was walking like 4 miles a day, doing all these stretches and squats. I was doing everything I could, and I was eating all the things you're supposed to, spicy food or supposed to, but all the things to induce labor. Anyways, I could feel that something was happening just slowly. And so as the day came, I was feeling more comfortable of like, maybe this will be a good thing that my body is ready and stuff is happening, but I'm just going to help kickstart it so I don't have to like sit around waiting for a few more weeks for this baby to come. So still really nervous, but wow, that was longer than I wanted it to be. But anyways, I was induced 2 days after. So I was 40 weeks and 2 days when I had my baby. So it was funny the way the hospital did it. They didn't actually tell me what time to come in. They just said, they called me and they said, okay, so there's 5 people that are going to be induced and you're like 3rd in line, and we start calling people at 5 a.m. It just was this very vague. They do a lot of, emergencies. They're a huge university hospital, so they were like, we just can't say for sure what time you're coming in. And I was like, can you guess what time? Like, so I could set my alarm. And the girl on the phone said, I really can't say, but maybe around 7:30 in the morning, we'll ask you to come in to start the induction process. And I was like, okay, but she didn't give me a set time, so I set my phone on loud right next to me just in case they called that night, and I'm so glad I did. I actually weirdly was able to sleep, even though I didn't think I would be able to, but I actually did get some sleep, and I set my phone right next to me just on loud, just in case they called earlier than I set my alarm for, because I set it for like 6 or something. And I got a call at 4 in the morning. It just woke me right up. And I answered, and they said, okay, we're ready for you to come in by 5 a.m. And we live like 35 minutes away from the hospital. So I was like, I panicked. It's just, I had no idea they were going to call me that early. So it was kind of a panic. I had everything ready, of course, but jumped out of bed at 4 a.m. I wanted to like do my hair. I wanted to shower. And so I was running around. We wanted to be there by 5. And we got there a little bit after 5 because I wasn't expecting it for them to call me that early, but we got there like 5:15. So when I got there, my doctor hadn't checked my cervix up to this point because I had something what I think they call a posterior cervix. It just means the baby's head was so low that like to get to my cervix to check how dilated it was, it had to go like up and around kind of. Anyways, it was extremely painful. Anytime my doctor went to check, she was like, it's not important enough, like it's fine. When I was like 37, 38 weeks, she was like, I'm not going to check you and put you through that pain because it's not that big of a deal, like it doesn't really matter at that point. So I hadn't actually been checked, so I had no idea if I was dilated at all. So we get in there, they put monitors on me, they gave me an IV, which I was like scared for that, and it actually was really painful, but I don't know why. You're having a baby, but I was actually nervous about having an IV. Anyways, all of that happened. So they did check me. It was super painful because my cervix was just, I don't know what the deal with it is, but it's hard to get up there. So they did check me, and I was 1.5 centimeters dilated, which I was so super happy about because I was afraid I would be like 0, not dilated at all. So because I was 1.5 centimeters, they did I don't know what the technical name is, but they call it a balloon. I'm sure a lot of people have been induced, or you're familiar with birth stories, you know what this is, but because I was 1.5, they could put the balloon in. So they put this like, it's just like like when it came out, honestly, the way I can describe it is it looked like one of those just like menstrual cups. Like it just was this silicone thing. I don't know. So they decided to put that in there. So that helps you dilate to like a 3 or a 4, and then it falls out once you're dilated to a 3 or 4. So they did that, and they also decided to do, I think it's called Cervidil. Wow, I think that's what it's called. I could be totally wrong. But they kind of, it's like a little pill they like put in there too to kind of, I don't actually know what that does, but it starts your contractions. So they put the balloon in, and that was honestly one of the most painful things they did all day, just because my cervix was so high up there. It was like, I mean, I did get an epidural, so obviously I would have had more pain if I didn't do that later on, but it took them so long. Even though they're like professional, my cervix was just not having it, and they just had to put that thing up, but it took them like 10-15 minutes, and even my husband afterwards was like, because he saw how far, like literally this lady's whole arm was up there putting this thing in, and I was like doing all my relaxation I had practiced, like going to my happy place, because it took like 10-15 minutes of them just like trying to get that thing in there, and it sucked really bad. So they put that in, they put the Cervidil in, and when you get the Cervidil, they can't start Pitocin for 4 hours after that. So they pretty much were like, hang out for 4 hours, and they said if your balloon falls out, that's a good thing. That means you're dilating to like at least 3 or 4. It's not just gonna accidentally fall out. So I was like, okay. So they kind of like tape it to your leg, and I really, really wanted to walk around. I had been active my whole pregnancy, so I kept saying, can I walk around with it? They said, yeah, totally fine. So my husband went and with me, and we just like paced the labor and delivery a few times, and it feels kind of weird because it was like taped to my leg, and I kept thinking it was gonna accidentally fall out, but they said it definitely will not. So we did that. I can't remember timelines, is the one thing I can't remember, but it was probably about, I think it was only an hour and a half after. So they put in like an hour and a half later. All of a sudden I was like, let's go back to the room, because we were walking, and I went in there and I had to lean on my husband. I was like, whoa, 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 like it just all of a sudden got really bad, and I was like, I think I like have to go to the bathroom. And so I went to sit on the toilet, and it fell out, and I was like, crap, like, and they told me so many times it's not gonna fall unless it's supposed to, but I thought I pulled it out because I like went to sit down. And so my husband like ran out to the nurse, and he was like, her balloon fell out, and she just was like, okay, that's a good thing. But I was like freaking out, and they were like, nope, if it fell out, that's a good thing. So I was all stressed about that, but the contractions got really bad right before it fell out, and then it fell out, and then I was like chilling for a long time. So it was like, there was like, we had like 2 more hours to wait before they could even start me on Pitocin. Then they started me on Pitocin, and my contractions were just like, I obviously wasn't like having the time of my life. I was uncomfortable, but I was not in a lot of pain. And that's because I mean, I wasn't really in active labor yet. Everyone's so different. But for me, up until 5, until I dilated, it was really up until they broke my water that I was just like, I don't know, I just was like, they gave me a ball, which was awesome, and so I sat and bounced on the ball, and they even came and like upped my Pitocin, and you could see on the monitor I was having contractions, but it really just felt like everyone says, like bad menstrual cramps. That's really what it felt like, just uncomfortable, just crampy. And I just was, when I would bounce on that ball, I just was stoked. Like I was playing cards with my mom and my husband, and we were just kind of having fun, like hanging out. They even came and brought me, I think before the Pitocin, I can't remember, they came and brought me breakfast, so I was like eating that. Also, you'll see, I think I'm gonna post a birth video. I'm still deciding, but I did make a birth video. My husband wore a GoPro on his head during the whole thing, so I had to cut out, essentially it was hard to make a birth video because there was so much that I had to cut out because it was just on his head, because he didn't want to worry about like having to watch everything through a camera or anything. Anyway, so if you watch that in the birth video, I do eat Cheerios, which there's such a controversy. I just have to address this on my gluten-free channel, but I ate Cheerios because they brought them to me, and that's like pretty much all I had. Also, I'll talk about the gluten-free stuff at the hospital, but anyways, I ate Cheerios because I was just like, well, it's something that's kind of gluten-free, even though I don't usually eat those. So we were just hanging out for like this whole time, and then they came in, they kept checking me, and I was progressing pretty slowly, but I could feel that stuff was happening, and I was not in a lot of pain yet. And then they came in and they broke my water, which is a really interesting experience. It doesn't hurt or anything. Sometimes I was scared because it's like this little hook, but you don't feel it at all. So they came and they broke my water, and the nurse, as soon as they broke it, she was like, okay, now that they broke your water, the contractions might get a little bit worse. And my next contraction, I was like, oh, because this whole time she had been asking me like, do you want to call the anesthesiologist? Do you want to get an epidural yet? And I just was like, no, like I'm fine. I don't want to get one yet. And as soon as they broke my water, I looked at the nurse and I was like, how long is it going to take for them to get here? Should we like call them now? She was like, yeah, I mean, sometimes it can take a while for them to get here, so you want me to call them? And I was like, yeah. So like as soon as they broke my water, I just was like, whoa, okay. And I was having like, for some reason I just started progressing like really fast as soon as they broke my water, and I was having contractions without breaks, just one on top of another. And so that was the most pain I was in all day. It was like an hour and a half between they broke my water and I got my epidural. But other than that, truly guys, obviously, first time moms, that's my first time. It's scary to have a baby. I was scared to have a baby, but like, I love all those natural moms who do it drug-free. Honestly, I think that's amazing, and I kind of wish I could, but like, that's too scary for me. But especially if you get an epidural, it's really not scary. Like, okay, it is scary. There's just a lot going on, but like, truthfully, it was not the most painful thing I've ever been through, which that's why I wanted to share my experience. I had such a positive, especially induction experience. So, anyway, so the contractions got really bad, and I just was, I say in the video, it's like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is why people scream, like in the movies. It was really, really painful. And then my epidural sucked. Like I said, it's a research hospital, so they had like some intern, whatever, some student guy come in to give me my epidural, and it took like, I don't know how long it usually takes people, but it took like 15 or 20 minutes for them to get my epidural in, which sucked really bad because you have to be sitting like this and not moving, and you're having contractions, and I can't move. And honestly, my head was like getting so uncomfortable because I just had to do this for like 15 minutes while I was contracting super bad. They had to like, I mean, the pain I can't even really remember at this point. Like, it kind of hurt. Like, it hurt. There's a needle going in your spine, but that sounds scarier than it felt. So like, it wasn't that creepy. It just wasn't comfortable, but honestly, just that uncomfortable position I'm in with the contractions was so much worse than getting an epidural. But the guy had to do it like 3 times, so that just sucked. It took way longer than it should have. But once that was in, I was smooth sailing. I was so feeling so good. So the nurse was just like, hey, we'll keep coming checking in on you. My doctor finally came in and was like, you know what? And after I got my epidural, I was at a 5. And at this point, it was like 5 p.m. So I had started the balloon and everything at like 6 a.m. It's now 5 p.m. I'm only at a 5. You know, things are progressing, but I was just like, man, she might not even be born today. Like, this is taking its time. So things were going well, but my family kept texting me, you know, and I was just like, you know what? I don't know what's happening. Like, I'm essentially only halfway, and it's already taken this long, almost most of the day. So it's probably going to be a while. I honestly was just like, I just hope I have her by midnight. Like, I just wanted to have her that day, but I just, you know, I was feeling good at that point, so whatever. So the doctor was like, okay, I'll come back in a while, and we turned on a movie, my favorite movie of all time, which is About Time. It's about families, and it just was a perfect movie to watch. So we turned that on. I was just chilling, like, my stepdad, my mom, my sister, my husband were all like there. They were like eating ice cream. I was hanging out in the bed, and I was feeling good, but then all of a sudden I like started feeling my contractions like pretty intensely again, not enough that it was anything close as before I got my epidural, but I just was like in pain. Like for having an epidural, I was like, these actually really hurt. And I turned up the thing they give you the style. I turned it up as much as I could because I was like, well, let's just do more. And I was still like, I don't want to be a baby, but I was like, okay, like these are still really uncomfortable, and if I'm only at a 5, like, so I called my nurse in and I was like, can they up the dosage? Because they can, other than just like pushing on the thing, they can like actually come and give you more. I don't know, I'm being very detailed, but so she was like, yeah, so they came and they gave me more, because I was just like, I'm really kind of feeling these, like I'm not screaming, but they're really uncomfortable. So they came and gave me more, and then like seriously like 10-15 minutes after they came and up my dosage, my nurse just came back in and was like, okay, we're gonna check you again. So remember, last time they checked me I was at a 5 at like 5 p.m. This time it was like 6:40 probably just about an hour and a half later after I was at a 5, and I was at a 10. Like I was expecting like I'm at a 6, I'm at a 7, you know, we're watching like literally the movie's on while the nurse is checking me, and she just goes, oh, you're at a 10. And my husband was standing there and just went, what? Like, I don't know, we were just expecting this long night and everything, and I went from a 5 to a 10 in about an hour and a half. And that must have been why my contractions, like I was going through transition and I didn't realize, because I had my epidural. So, and then it was craziness. It was like a movie, because the nurse goes on the speaker. I can't remember exactly what she said. I think I'm trying to remember, because it was like all of a sudden everything happened at once, because they weren't expecting me to be ready that fast either. So, I remember she said, we're complete in here, because my doctor wasn't even at the hospital anyway, so I was at a 10, and she just goes, we're complete in here. And all of a sudden it was like, it seriously was a movie. Like in my head there was like 10 nurses like rushing in, they were getting everything, like they were really just getting stuff ready for the baby, but it felt panicky. And then at the same time they were checking the baby's heart rate, and her heart rate dropped, which, you know, at the time was her, it's actually like when you start going into, or when you're ready to push, the baby's like, you know, getting pushed on, so their heart rate can drop a lot. But the heart rate was dropping, so these monitors were going off, and so the nurse gives me oxygen, and there's like literally nurses just running around the room, and they were really just getting stuff set up, but it felt terrifying. That was like probably the scary moment of the day. But truthfully it wasn't that scary, but in the moment, like her heart was dropping, and that was stressing me out. And then they put oxygen on me, and there's people running around, and then they're telling me my doctor's not even at the hospital, so they're calling her. So the cool thing about the epidural is you really don't feel pain, but you do feel pressure, which is what I think is so cool. They can do them so well now, because as soon as I didn't know I was at a 10, so she's like, you're at a 10, all that stuff happens, and then all of a sudden I felt the pressure, and I was like, whoa, yeah, like this is what it feels like when people say like the pressure to push. And it sounds really gross, but like I never knew what that really meant, but truthfully, like it's like a baby. It kind of feels like you're just like really having to go to the bathroom, and there's like a lot of pressure down there, but like it feels weird. It's a really weird feeling, but it wasn't painful. It just like felt really weird. But my doctor was like 10-15 minutes away, so they were like, and my doctor said to them, do not let her push. Like she wanted to be there, and I just loved her, and I wanted her to be there too. So I sat there for about 10 or 15 minutes, just waiting for my doctor, and they told me, if you feel like you really need to push, we're just gonna do it. Like we're not, you know, and I knew that, but I was feeling uncomfortable, but I wasn't feeling like, oh my gosh, get this baby out of me. So then the doctor comes, and then at that point I'm like, okay, I was like gearing myself up mentally. It's like, I've been through all this during the day, and now I know most first-time moms, like it can take so long. It can take 2 hours is what I hear a lot of people, it takes them to push. So I was just like, I don't know how to do this. Oh, and by this point, the epidural made me super shaky too. I know that happens to people, but I was like my husband said it made him a little bit nervous. I was so shaky. Like, it's just, and I wasn't cold. Like, I kept piling blankets on me, but I think it's just of the dosage. I don't know. I was very numb and very shaky. So I was like shaking, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to push for 2 hours. Like, I'm literally shaking, but I just didn't know if I had the strength, and I felt so numb anyways. So I was so nervous about pushing, and I was like, okay, I've made it this far, I can do it. And then as soon as I started pushing, like, and it was so cool. It was all women. Like, it was my doctor and all these nurses. It was just like a woman power party in that room. You know, my husband was there, but like, it just was it was like fun, which is weird to say, but all of the nurses and my doctor were being like hilarious between all my pushes. So I would push, and they were just like making jokes and being funny, and my doctor was talking about her kids, and it just was like, I don't know, it was such a good experience. So I really loved that. So, but after like 2 pushes, I could feel that she was coming out, and even my husband was like, she's like there. Like he said as soon as I like spread my legs to start pushing, like you could see her. She was there. And so then I got really motivated, like, let's get her out. Let's not make this take 2 hours. So the amazing, long story short, is I only pushed a total of 5 times and for 17 minutes. So I only pushed for 17 minutes total, and she was just out, which was the coolest thing because I just thought I was going to be pushing for so long, and she just came out. It was so cool. So as she was coming out, my doctor, like, well, it was so funny because my last push, so they told me, like, on your very last one, when she's like coming out, we're gonna have you do like baby push. Like, you're not gonna go full on the really hard push, you're just gonna do like little baby ones to like prevent tearing and everything. So it was my last push. I didn't realize that she was like that close, and so I went to do a huge push, and they're like, no, baby push. I was like, wait, really? And so I did smaller push, and all of a sudden my doctor had her like waving at me, and she was coming out, and it was crazy. Like, and I do want to say too, like, in a lot of those videos, they're beautiful. When you watch the baby come out, they always make me bawl my eyes out. But it just was, I was so overwhelmed. I was one of those people who had the experience of just like, oh my gosh, there's a baby on me. Like, I was obviously immediately in love with her, and it was a crazy experience. But you can even see my face in the video. I'm just like kind of in shock. Well, she just came so fast. It was like 5, and I was like, well, it probably might not even be by midnight. And also 2 hours later, like, I had my baby. So anyways, so she was on me. I got to snuggle her for a few hours, and that first night in the hospital, like, I was so tired. I was so tired, but it's truly indescribable. It's just the most beautiful feeling, and she just was so precious and more than I could have ever dreamed of, and just the fact that everything was okay and that all her vitals were good, and she just was such a sweet baby. So I hope that this wasn't too long. I probably rushed through that. I mumble a lot and I talk really fast, so this might have been a mumbly, talky birth story, but I just didn't want to take like 40 minutes. But anyways, I really want to share this experience because I had a very positive induction experience. I know not everyone does, and not everyone wants to be induced, but for me personally, it really did feel like my body was getting there, and we just like helped it along. It just felt like we were helping my body instead of forcing it to go into labor. So I want to share my story. Like I said, I think I might post my birth video on here. I know a lot of people probably are interested. Oh, I was also going to mention gluten-free groupie, the gluten-free food. So the hospital I was at, those first few meals, it was actually pretty sad because everyone talks about like the big meal you have after you have your baby, but by the time I got to the postpartum room, it was like 9:30 p.m. My mom went to get me Starbucks, which was like the one thing I really wanted, so I got that, which I was super stoked about. So I had my huge Starbucks, and that was nice. But then they came and brought me, well, we tried to tell them, like, they were like, do you want dinner? And I was like, yeah, I'd love something, but you know, I'm gluten-free. And they had said that the second I got to the hospital, they were looking at my records, and they were like, okay, so you have celiac. So they had that in the record, but just because I just got into postpartum, they kind of just like were giving me what was left over. I don't know, they brought me just like this Cobb salad, which is super gross. Everyone just talks about like the big meal you have after you have a baby, but I had this Cobb salad, and I just like kind of picked at it. Mostly I just had my Starbucks, and like I was gonna say went to sleep, but no, I didn't go to sleep because my baby was screaming, and I was trying to feed her, which was really fun. But so, and then the food after that was actually awesome. So then the next morning they came in the food place and like took my order, and on the menu thing they gave me had gluten-free options, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is so much better. I thought it was gonna be like nasty Cobb salads the whole time, but I actually had great food. I don't know how it is for every hospital. I was nervous going into it. I brought like tons of snacks because I like wasn't sure if I would have, you know, like gross salads or whatever, but it was awesome. They had gluten-free bread. Like my favorite thing I got was a grilled cheese with tomato soup. I got that a couple times for lunch because I was there for like almost 3 full days because my baby struggled to eat, and we had to make sure she could eat before we left the hospital. So anyways, the food ended up being awesome. I would definitely check with your hospitals beforehand if you are celiac going into an experience like this, whether to have a baby or whatever is going on. But the food was really great, and I had even French toast one morning, so that ended up being like a good experience. I barely ate any of my snacks, but just wanted to throw that in there because this is a gluten-free channel. Okay, I just talked really fast about a really important, cool story, but I just like ran through it because I don't want this to take forever. Anyways, that is my really awesome experience that I had, and now 6 months later, it kind of feels surreal, like it didn't really happen, even though I can still sit here and tell all the details, but it kind of feels like that wasn't me. It's just so weird to think about like the you before you have a baby and the you afterwards, because they're such different people, and where I am 6 months later is just it's such a different world now. But I have a beautiful baby girl, and that was honestly, when I left the hospital, I said this to my husband. I was like, I should not say this to people, especially friends that have had, you know, harder labor experiences. But as we left the hospital, I just was sitting there next to my baby girl, and I was like, that was kind of fun. like obviously, especially postpartum is like, it's not fun. It really sucks. And I did tear. So I had stitches, and it just was, it just sucked. It was painful. But the whole experience in itself, and especially the day I had the baby, not the 2 days after, but the day I had the baby, it was like, the way I could describe it was like, it was fun. And so for those of you who are maybe having your first baby or just anxious, nervous about having a baby, I know everyone's experiences are different, but I would just go into it as positive as you can, knowing that there, you know, people do this every day, and there are also so many positive experiences out there, and it truly is just such an amazing day. And even though it's painful, but it's awesome. Okay, now I'm rambling. Anyways, I finally made this video 6 months later, and I will be back soon with more gluten-free videos, so stay tuned. Thank you for those who have subscribed to me, even though I haven't made videos since like I was 6 months pregnant, and now I have a 6-month-old baby. So thanks for subscribing, and I will be out with more gluten-free videos soon.